Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Secure Talk. My name is Mark Schreiner, and I'll be your host for this episode of Secure Talk. Today, we're going to be talking with Brad Hawkins, who's the CEO of SaferNet, and we're going to be talking about some of the trends in cybersecurity. We're going to also talk about VPNs, and then we're going to talk a little bit about SaferNet's kind of unique solution and how it can be used to protect us from some of the threats on the current threat landscape. But first off, I want to say hi to Brad. Brad, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Mark. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
My pleasure. Whereabouts are you located today?
Arvada, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so has the weather changed? Are you starting to get snow I'm sure in the Rockies there, but is it coming down to your area yet?
You know, I've lived all my life here, and this is the most beautiful, calm start of the winter that I've ever seen in my life. Now, I do look at my temperature right now. It's about 35, but we had a few flakes of snow over the weekend, but that's it.
Well, that's good. I personally, if it's cold, I can deal with it as long as the sun is out and there's a nice blue sky to look at. So that sounds really good. In fact, I'm going to actually be up in the Fort Collins area in a couple of weeks. So hopefully that weather will stay the course.
Well, you will love when you make it here, I'm sure.
So did you start SaferNet in Arvada there?
Yeah, we're in actually the office has been in Old Town Arvada, beautiful little place, kind of a great place to gather, wonderful restaurants. COVID made it even cooler where everybody sits out on the streets and does fun things. But yeah, SaferNet's been here in Arvada area for since its inception.
Excellent. Well, we're going to come back to SaferNet in a bit here, but I want to just ask some kind of general cybersecurity questions and get your opinion. What do you think is the most common vector for companies and individuals to get hacked these days?
Excuse me. The majority of what's happening is just some. The hackers are coming in there with some silly emails that have, some viruses within them. They're not overly advanced. They're just, people making foolish mistakes, clicking on them, or accessing private Wi-Fi's or open Wi-Fi's where you're not running a proper VPN to be protected. It's just little tiny errors that most employees are doing that cause their businesses or even personal issues quite the issue if they cannot simply follow those simple little guidelines. And that's what I find when you really talk to a company and they backtrack how they got hacked. It's usually a simple error, a simple mistake.
Well, describe one of these emails, because I think we all see a variety of emails. Describe the ones that you see most commonly.
Interestingly, I have Verizon cell phone, and I got a excuse me, I got an email from Verizon saying, hey, you can pay your bill online, and I looked at that and I thought, I don't remember ever paying Verizon online. Everything happens automatically, and I look at the URL, and the URL didn't match Verizon, and I thought, that's interesting. So I knew it was bad, but I do this all the time, just testing our systems, and I went ahead and clicked on it, and sure enough, we got a big stop from our system. But it could have been a very easy thing to be able to just click on that and say, I want to see what my balance is, or whatever the case is. There's so many of those that are just amazingly designed. I mean, the same people that would design it for a real example with Verizon would be using those same skills to be able to go out there and create something for a hacker. But if I would have clicked on that unprotected, the odds of me getting a ransomware or something running through my system is pretty strong.
So you're definitely advising people not to do what you did and click on it. I mean, you've got all the platform tools, et cetera, to protect. Probably got a sandbox environment, something like that. But if you're an end user out there, you're not a security professional, you wouldn't want to click on it. So let's actually drill down on that in a second here, or next. I'm not a security professional, and I receive this email. What should I do? And step two, I am a security professional. What would be the next step? So why don't we talk about those two scenarios?
If you're not a security professional and you're looking at it, it seems odd. It doesn't matter if you have business with that company, you're working with that company. I would go on to a separate connection that I had with that company and verify that they're actually doing what they're doing. But yeah, I would never click on something that even looked remotely suspicious. And where a lot of people end up getting themselves into trouble is that they're just going through their emails really quickly and they're glancing at them. What I like to do is go through the ones that I'm expecting first, deal with everything I need to expect, and then go through the ones that I was not expecting and take a closer look at them. URLs is a great exposure to what is true and what's not true. So if you just look at those URLs and they don't look like they are going to take you to the correct place, don't click on it. And there's nothing that's going to happen to you if you miss a Verizon bill. Reach out to Verizon and pay for it online, or do whatever you need to do. But the key is paying close attention to it. If you're working in a work environment, contact your IT professionals there and just let them verify it. Make sure that there's something there that is making some sense. There's for small businesses, there's a company called Ningio. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Really like them. They have created professional, high quality videos that, and we actually give them away to our subscribers because they're that good. But they've created these high quality videos that goes out to all of their work staff that creates a fun environment, teaching people what they should and should not do in different work environments in regards to cybersecurity concerns. It is just a great. I don't get anything out of this. I'm just promoting them because they're a high quality cybersecurity solution with just simple training videos.
I 100% agree with you. I think awareness of the potential threats is probably the most important line of defense for all of us. And that starts with education. A lot of people think, oh, well, somebody else in the company is going to take care of cybersecurity. Or they might think, well, as an individual, why would anybody go after me? I'm just this person, right? And guess what? There's a lot of people that get attacked out there every single day. And being aware of what potential threats look like, and then also, as you mentioned, what the appropriate follow-ups would be, is super, super important. And I'm glad you mentioned Ningio. I will put a link to them in the show notes. Now let's go back. Okay, so in the case of you are in an organization and you're the IT professional, somebody flags a suspicious email to you. What's your next step? What do you do?
Really, what needs to take place is a notice. First off, you need to be able to verify that it's bad or good, but most professionals can take a quick look at it and figure out whether it's good or bad just by looking at the URL, looking at prior relationships, looking at the details behind the email. You can take a look at the details behind the email. But really, to notify everybody that, hey, we just stopped this, be aware of what's happening. It kind of goes back to that education level again. Most companies feel like they have everything well in place, but there's new issues that come up all the time. And just by notifying everybody what's going on, it just kind of brings it to the level of paying attention. And truthfully, like I said before, most of the things that we run into is just simply going too fast and not paying attention. But bringing that attention to everybody is really, really important.
Okay, and again, in the role of the security professional, if you notice that, hey, several employees are getting similar type emails from the same source, do you take some additional step in terms of blacklisting or blocking, or what do you do?
Um, there are a lot of tools, and not to promote SaferNet, but SaferNet, we have these little gauges that be able to says, hey, this is a highly risky person, this is a low risk person. Any cybersecurity expert should be able to know who does risky behavior online. Now,
Hmm.
I don't necessarily mean horrible behavior. I just mean risky behavior. It might be part of your job. But when you're going to places in the internet where you have known viruses and you know who that person is, you need to make sure that they're well aware of what it is that they're doing and what needs to take place. But you do have on the back end, if you're set up correctly, you've got the ability to block portions of the internet. You've got the ability to be able to slow things down to pay attention to what's going on. You've got multiple tools on the back end to be able to monitor that one individual person. Like I said in our in our graph, we have green, yellow, and red, and how risky and how not risky. And most software that does this kind of behavior will let you know that. But
Hmm.
yeah, you would just go in there and honestly, what I find is it's kind of old school. But if you have somebody that is worrying you, don't hassle yourself with a lot of. I mean, make sure you're notifying them, but you need to sit down and show that person what is risky behavior and what is not risky behavior. If you're sending an email, you might find that they're not paying attention to it or they don't put it at a heightened level of concern. I would honestly sit down with them. Usually, what we find is when somebody has a sit down, the behavior stops if it's not needed.
Sure. How would you define or risky behavior? Yeah. What are some different types of risky behavior that you would flag?
Going to a lot of videos. If somebody's not needing it for their job, if they're searching for videos, they end up tripping into some difficult behavior. I would not expect this in a professional environment, although, you don't know what people are doing. But people that are going to pornography, that is known to be the worst traffic on the internet. I mean, you're
Mm.
going to get viruses even if you you can run every cybersecurity tool out there, and if you've got somebody that's popping into pornography, you know they're gathering viruses, and then if they're bringing their devices on premise, it's even worse. What I find is interesting is that you've got a lot of those people that are working from um, open Wi-Fi's if they're popping into Starbucks or the coffee house that they're used to, whatever it is. Um, they have to be running a VPN 24/7. They cannot just pop in with a VPN that takes them back into the office. They've got to be running a VPN 24/7 because if they're popping up their laptop and then they're accessing their email, they're wide open during that period of time, whether they're accessing the server or not. Once they do access the server through after that device could have been already compromised, now you've created an easy delivery mechanism right into the server with whatever they picked up at that open Wi-Fi.
Okay, so, that's interesting. So explain the threat of public Wi-Fi. It's so tempting. God, I mean, especially with kids and everything, you roll into any place, especially when you're traveling together, and the first thing everybody wants is that Wi-Fi. What's the threat there?
Well, I got to tell you, there are. It is probably where the majority of viruses come from. Trojans are very, very famous for coming in on open Wi-Fi, and a Trojan is just simply you pick up a virus, you don't even know you have it. It's on your device. You VPN or get into the office, and then whoever is the host of that Trojan accesses the Trojan, and they have whatever access you have behind the firewall. Same thing happens with a VPN. But when you're accessing open Wi-Fi, what's fascinating to me is if you just go to YouTube and type in hacking on public Wi-Fi, and you've got these 12-year-old kids that'll teach you how to hack somebody on public Wi-Fi. It's just an IP address, 5 up or 5 down of yours, and you can go in there in the back door with the right app and access what they have on their device. And you can take things off or you can put things on. You don't know who happens to be sitting in that public Wi-Fi with you, and they very easily could be accessing whatever it is that they'd like to.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. So in that situation, then, uh, what should I do? What's the solution?
You know, I don't mean to just promote SaferNet, but we have a 24/7 always on VPN. So
Wait,
that
wait, explain, because I thought you were going to talk about VPNs, but what's the critical importance between a 24/7 always on versus just a standard old VPN? In fact, actually, you know what I would like to do for people who don't even, there might be some people who don't understand the strengths of a VPN. Why don't we just start there? What is a VPN and why should I use it? And then let's talk about the 24/7.
Perfect. So as far as I'm concerned, VPN, it should be the foundation of any cybersecurity. It's a very simple, easy solution. Some people don't like them, some people love them, but it needs to be a foundation of any cybersecurity. And what a VPN is it basically takes your traffic and puts it into a tube and allows you to go wherever you need to go on the internet within this tube that keeps people from being able to access. Now, literally, that's not what it is, but that's a good explanation of how it operates. Then within that, you have different levels of encryption. So you can get a VPN without encryption, with a minor level of encryption, or a lot of encryption. 256-bit is what the military and or banks use. So it's a high level of encryption. That happens to be what we use. You can go to 125, you can go to no encryption, but it's really important that you have some kind of encryption within that tube. So if on the outside of the chance somebody penetrates that tube, they still can't access it because it's all scrambled. Everything, all your data is scrambled and then reassembled at the other side where you're going. Now, a lot of companies will say, we need to have you only access our servers if you're out of the office with a VPN. What they are missing is the fact that if you open up that laptop at Starbucks, for example, you're doing your emails, you're doing whatever you need to do, you access your public Wi-Fi, you're doing your normal routine on a public Wi-Fi. How convenient is that? It's wonderful to be able to do that. During that period of time, you very, very could have picked up a Trojan. So then when you fire up that VPN, now that VPN gives you encrypted traffic all the way to your server with your device already infected with a Trojan. Now that Trojan has access to wherever you happen to be going. That's why it's so important to not access public Wi-Fi ever without a VPN on. Now the first step is to turn on your computer and then turn on your VPN and then start doing things. But there is a small little window that you're still at risk. That's why we run ours from the start of the computer. So as soon as you start the computer, the very first thing that happens is that VPN spins up, and then it starts doing what it needs to do. So that way it is protected from second one. You're not going to end up getting any viruses if you're stepping into a public Wi-Fi.
Now, is there any performance degradation by having the VPN just start up automatically? I mean, there might be some times where I don't even need Wi-Fi. I just want to work on my device. Talk a little bit about that.
Couple of things. One is, if you're in a public Wi-Fi and you have your Wi-Fi on, even if you're not putting in the password to access it, you're still at risk. You're still open. Your
device could automatically connect, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you could be fooling yourself possibly, unless you actually have your Wi-Fi turned off.
Okay.
And
so that might be a good best practice. If you don't have the VPN, the always on VPN right now, and you're in a place where where you don't want to, you're not going to turn the VPN on. Because I'm just thinking about it. I mean, sometimes you don't even know if there's public Wi-Fi. You could be, you might pick up some random household's Wi-Fi as well if they've left it open. So probably a good best practice would be, if you're not going to, spin up your VPN, you should turn off your Wi-Fi.
Well, that's exactly right. You see movie stars that have, some nudie pictures put out there. It's not like they're putting them out there. It's that somebody accessed their device and got them. They very well could have been driving through a drive-through at Starbucks and somebody accessed it. Even when they weren't logged on to the Wi-Fi, they could still go in through that IP address. So there's a lot of things that are out there that are dangerous. And if you're not allowing a Wi-Fi connection, then you are much safer than if you have Wi-Fi turned on. Most people walk around with their cell phones. If you just take a look at their cell phone, their Wi-Fi is turned on. Whether they're logged in or not, it doesn't make any difference.
That's pretty scary. So I'm just looking at my phone right now. Uh-oh. So okay. It's important if you're not going to, if you don't have a VPN and but let me ask you this. I'm going to take one more step back, and then I really want to start talking about the SaferNet solution. But I am in, at Starbucks, and I definitely need to get these emails out. I don't have a VPN on. What should I do then? Use my hotspot on my phone? Is that safe, or is that not safe?
Using your hotspot is much, much safer than going right into a public Wi-Fi. So, your intent is to keep yourself from going to a place that everyone else is, and you don't know who everybody else is. If you don't have a VPN, I would personally never use a public Wi-Fi. I just wouldn't do it. With a VPN, you're okay as long as you've got a decent VPN and you know that it's on and you know that it's doing what it should be doing. You talked about degradation. It's interesting. I had a radio host, a guy named Tom Martino. He's kind of well known in the Denver area, and he's a consumer advocate. And I got a phone call from somebody saw our advertisement somewhere, and I got a phone call from his radio show live on air, and we were saying that we had a 0.01 latency with our VPN. And he was calling me out and saying, I don't believe that. I believe that it's got to be slower than that. I've used VPNs all the time. I said, well, that's what our labs tell us, but I do believe it because I use it all the time. And he asked me if we'd be willing to do a live test. And I said, sure. He had some IT guys there, and they ran a live test. He didn't say anything for the first 2 tests that he did. And then he came back and basically said, it should not be the case. You're speeding up my internet connection. Now, we don't truly speed up the internet connection, but the result is that we did speed up that internet connection. And the reason is that, and we'll talk about more of this in just a minute, but there's so much traffic coming into your device, trying to gather information off of your device. They're reaching in all the time. You've given permission to so many things in the past. They're just reaching in and gathering things that's slowing down your device automatically. If we're going in and slowing down the internet to some degree, and then blocking all of that traffic that is actually using up your CPU speed and doing what it needs to do to pull your data, by blocking all of that, we actually make up what we lose, plus we gain you some. So overall effect, by using a VPN, you're going to have a speedier internet connection. Now, there is a little bit of latency as you start up your device. Sure enough, it will slow it down a little bit because that VPN has to build. But once it's built, the overall effect will be it'll be a little faster.
Excellent. Totally makes sense to me. Now, let's go down the road of VPN, standard off-the-shelf VPN versus the SaferNet solution.
So there are some fantastic VPNs out there. By no means would I say you should only use ours. I mean, there's great solutions out there. And truthfully, VPNs have kind of become a dime a dozen. I mean, there's a billion of them out there. It's really important to me, in my mind, as we've talked, is to be a 24/7 always on solution. It needs to start with the device. I don't know many VPNs out there that actually do that. You've got to go in there and actually do something to start that VPN. Now, if you had somebody that was very diligent to make sure they were starting it every single time, I don't know if that would be a monstrous problem, but if I'm an IT professional, I know that majority of the people that I'm trying to protect are not going to choose that. So I want to make sure it starts with them. The second thing that I think is very important is to have a high grade of encryption within that VPN. And a lot of them do have a 256 grade encryption, and there's some other types of encryption that you can use. All of it is very, very good. But the thing that we do that I think that is, I don't know of anybody else that's doing this, that I personally love, is we've got virus protection within that VPN. So what happens is that if you're running a VPN without virus protection, you can go to a website with a VPN and you're not being hacked. Nobody's gathering that data. But if you access a website that does have a virus on it, or it's delivering you a virus, now you're receiving that virus without anything stopping it. It'll automatically come in. And with our solution, we have that virus protection within that VPN. It will stop it before it actually reaches that device. And at that point, it won't be able to get to the device. It won't be able to get to the server. It won't get anywhere. So you don't even have to necessarily have the virus protection on your device. Although I do always recommend that, just in case someone turns off our VPN. But our intent is to stop all viruses before they get to that device. And so that is kind of a secret sauce that I think we have that I have not seen in other VPNs. Now,
okay, please continue.
So with that, what we do is we run everything through a dashboard. And in that dashboard, any administrator, and you can have as many administrators if you want, any administrator can take a look at all the traffic to see what is risky behavior and see what's not risky behavior. We've got over 200 internet controls. 84 of those are filters that you can filter out portions of the internet. So I can filter out social media from my finance team, but I can leave social media for my
maybe sales team. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I can decide how to design my individual employees' internet activities, but I can see it all, and then I can choose to block or not block. So we've got major filters, and then we can refine it down to specific website as well, so that that administrator has that flexibility and control. When you get into the part of the dashboard that you can see all the traffic, there's my favorite button, and I don't like the name. We got to come up with a better marketing name, but we call it Entourage. And if anybody has any good ideas, I'd love to hear it. We've sat around conference boardrooms discussing this multiple times, but Entourage is basically all of that exterior traffic that's trying to reach into your device. We talked about a minute ago, trying to reach into your device and gather your information. And what's happening is that you've got people that are using your data as their money-making tool. And it affects you. It slows down your devices, and who knows what they're doing with your data. But when you're running our VPN, not only are we blocking all that information from leaving your device, but we are showing you everybody that's all their IP addresses, everybody that's doing it. We're revealing it, and then you can take a look at it and say, well, I don't know why they're doing it. You can actually backtrack and see down to who it is exactly who's hitting you the most.
So these would be from websites where you've downloaded the cookies or different apps that you're using, and yeah, as part of the agreement, you allow them to access certain data, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. But hey, now you can be aware, and you can actually choose to block. Actually, it sounds like by default it's a block, and then you'd have to allow them. Is that the way it works?
Actually, the way it's set as a default is that we block everything that your device is not needing, and we allow everything that your device does use. For example, I have Microsoft products. They're reaching in all the time and accessing my device on a regular basis, whether I'm choosing to or not. They're just doing what they need to do. There's sometimes Microsoft shows up in my blocked category, and I look at that thinking, is that supposed to be there? But that means that we have determined that that was something that was not related to an app that we're operating with, and so we're blocking the things that are not necessary and allowing the things that are necessary. You can go in there and adjust whatever you want to adjust. You can allow everything. You can stop whatever you want to do. But the overall purpose is to not allow access to your device unless it is a needed access and you've chosen to put it on there.
Great. And this works for both enterprise users and individual users. So if I, as an individual, want to subscribe to SaferNet's VPN solution, I would also have that app that would allow me to open up and see what.
Absolutely, it's all in the cloud. It's a dashboard that you can control all aspects of things. But yes, it is for an enterprise solution or an individual. Now, for a larger enterprise, we do have other solutions that allows multiple layers of access to the admin tools. But just for a small to medium-sized business or an individual, one layer we find is plenty.
Excellent. Well, hey, I want to ask a couple more questions before we wrap this up. One is, I wonder, when it comes to social media like Facebook, or maybe using sites like Google, other big data companies, do you see what are your biggest privacy concerns?
To be honest with you, the biggest concern I have is that nobody seems to care that everybody is gathering all their data. Just when you simply have a conversation with somebody and I describe what I just described, they're like, well, does that mean I don't get my targeted advertisements specifically for what I'm looking for?
That actually kind of freaks me out, man. If I'm going on YouTube, searching for a particular product video or whatever, and then I log into Facebook and I'm immediately served up that ad for that particular product or competitor to that product, it disturbs me. And I know that's the world that we live in and the price we have to pay, but it's just I don't know. I guess I'm a little old school, but yeah.
Well, I'm right there with you. I made a comment recently at a talk that I was doing, is how would you feel if I spent a day walking through your house, pulling open every drawer and trying to decide exactly what kind of a person you are, and then I start marketing to you? I'm pretty sure people would be a little freaked out about that. That is not a comfort level that we would normally be at. And if you think about it, if you see somebody sitting at your computer, just going through your computer, you're going to be a little freaked out about that too. So what are you doing? Why are you in my computer? But yet, if you don't see them, somehow that's okay.
Ignorance is bliss, right?
And that's where really my greatest concern is because where the trend of people go, the activity goes. And what I'd love to see is a stand up to start asking everyone, why are you taking my data and what are you doing with it? And get to the place where I would love it if we would all be able to offer our data for sale and have these major companies pay us for our data, or we choose not to offer it to sell. And so at that point, at least we're in control and trying to make wise decisions for ourselves as opposed to just allowing people to access us for free software.
Yeah,
That's
we become the product, and but we're not getting reimbursed for it, right? I mean, so it's kind of scary. I think the EU is a little bit further ahead of us in terms of the regulations like GDPR, et cetera, giving individuals control of their data. The onus is on the organizations who are collecting and processing the data to notify individuals, hey, this is what we're doing, this is our business purpose for using it. Here's if you don't want us to access it, here's the process, et cetera. But in the States, it's still kind of the Wild West.
Yeah, and I find that that's very interesting because we, as a VPN, we have access to all the data, all of it. I mean, we get it before any other company gets it because we're right there. Now, we dump all that data. We don't gather it. We don't collect it. We don't sell it, which actually means we have to charge for our product. That's just the way the math works. But
Well, let me ask a question then, because that brings up, how do you trust your VPN provider then? I mean, the data is encrypted, so I'm assuming even if you can capture it, that it would take a huge effort to unencrypt it or decrypt it. But how can I trust a VPN provider if they can access the data?
That is a great question. That is an excellent question. That's something that we discuss things all the time where we are revealing. Number one, we have on our privacy statements that this is what we do, and if someone finds us in violation, they can make a lot of money off of us. So that's a key aspect of things, is that we've got to dump that data or we're going to have a lot of problems in the long run. One of the things that I find very interesting is that very few people do a back-end research of who really owns different VPNs. Now, we're US owned. I mean, we're wide open right out there in the middle. There's nobody behind us that owns us anywhere. But if you do back-end research, a lot of the big VPNs are owned by companies out of Russia and out of China. Now, some people look at that and say, well, I don't care about that. That's no big deal. I happen to not like that idea a lot because they're not subject to our laws. They could say we're dumping your data and we're not collecting data, but on the back end, maybe they are. And so
just out of curiosity, because if I'm sending an email through a VPN that's encrypted, I would think that it's protected to a fairly high degree, even from the VPN provider, I would think. Of course, I'm sure there's all kinds of different backdoors and loopholes and things that can be done. But what about metadata? So can the VPN provider track the different websites that I've been to?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It takes a lot of work to be able to build that metadata into the back end. But once it's done, it's a huge moneymaker. It's a monstrous moneymaker. You look at what Google and some of these other monster companies that are some of the wealthiest companies around the world, that all they're doing is selling that metadata. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, they can. And I assume, I don't know facts of anything, but I assume that some of them are. But I would take a close look at their privacy statements and see what they're agreeing to. I find that, most people will not blatantly lie in a privacy statement. I just don't believe that is the case. But they would leave loopholes for themselves to be able to do that. But I do think that it's time in our society that we start paying attention to those kind of things and be aware of what is really happening behind the scenes. And that's where I feel like it's very important for us to be open and honest and just say, we are not ever going to gather data because I realize as the CEO, that is a great moneymaker and we could increase the value of our company rather dramatically. But I think that people use VPNs, use them for the purpose of being private and safe and not want to step into that world. And I think that's where that's where most VPNs are going to end up going, is really focusing on that privacy and safety.
Excellent. Okay. Hey, just one last question, and then I would like you to just kind of give an overview of SaferNet. But You mentioned several times that if you go in public Wi-Fi, even if, before your VPN was turned on, or maybe before I subscribed to SaferNet, which is the always-on VPN, um, I could have some kind of virus on my device, and when I boot up my VPN, it could go through the VPN to the company server, etc. What do I do? I just run an antivirus check, or how do I determine whether or not my device is infected?
Yeah, you need to make sure that you've got not just one of the free antiviruses. You need to have a high quality antivirus on your device, making sure that it's scrubbing and protecting all the time. Um, I find a lot of people think, well, I've got an Apple, so I'm safe. Well, that's not totally true. Apples are famous because they don't allow other companies to access it. It doesn't mean that you can't get a virus. It just means that you're not getting. There's not a lot of holes in the computer that allows other accesses. But we had back a few years ago, I had an Apple, a big, huge monster in my kitchen, and that was actually the worst virus attack I had ever had in my life on an Apple. So, it's not that it's completely safe. It's just that they have put in some stopgaps to not let it happen as often. But I think that every computer out there should have a high-grade VPN or high-grade virus protection on it. If you're running SaferNet and you don't intend to ever turn it off, having one of the free versions on there is just fine. It's not a problem at all. I like having the free version on there even when we're running SaferNet, because it might be that somebody turns off SaferNet, or there's a glitch in the cloud and we have an issue or something along those lines. It's always good to have both levels of protection on there.
Excellent. Okay, so hey, I appreciate you. You shared a lot of really valuable information here, and but I would like to hear one, if we wanted to learn more about SaferNet, where can we find it? I'm assuming your website, but you could tell us your URL. If you're going to any events, or if there's any upcoming developments that we should be aware of, and then as part of that, I'm just curious, like the size and scope of SaferNet as well.
Yeah, you can go to safernet.com. It actually takes you to safernetvpn.com. So either one of those URLs operate. And I'd love for anybody to go there and just check us out and see what they're thinking. In regards to where we're going in the future, I am more excited than really anything else right now. We have and we're in the process of manufacturing, but we have a tiny little computer that we can plug into any router that will take our SaferNet signal and send it to all IoT devices. Now, if you understand IoT risk, it's all those, hundreds of devices that you have within your business or your home that are accessing the internet, but they're not computers. Therefore, you cannot put virus protection on them. But with our VPN, with our virus protection within it, that IoT device is protected with a virus protection from the second that it accessed the internet. And so we are very excited about that. That's coming to hopefully second quarter of next year. We should have that out. But don't hold me to that, because there's a lot of work to be done in that.
But there's massive potential in that market, because everybody, there's an explosion of IoT devices, of course, and an explosion of the number of apps and different, functionalities that they're being deployed for. And there's an explosion in the number of attacks on these devices, and everybody's scrambling to figure out how best to protect these devices. So that sounds very, very promising.
Yeah, we're very excited about it, and our developers are thrilled that we've passed all of our test processes, and it's very cool. You can actually go in there and just for the home use, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you have kids or not, but I remember back in the day when my kids would be saying, "Oh, one more TV show," and and then I get busy and not even pay attention, and then it's like 2 or 3 TV shows. Well, I can go onto my phone and I can set 20 more minutes, and the internet goes off. And it's really kind of an amazing thing. Or you can do the same thing with an Xbox. Is you can go in there and set, I'll give you an hour of Xbox after school, and then you got to get to your homework. And all of a sudden, in the middle of a game, it's going to turn off, and the kid's going to be saying, "Give me a few more minutes." And
right.
But the reality,
that's. I mean, you've got me sold there, because it's like the ongoing battle. We set a time limit in the evening, and I want the devices in the kitchen, and who ends up going and rounding up the devices? It's me versus the devices coming to the kitchen, right? And it's like, it'd be so nice if it just automated and the device goes down. I was like, hey, don't blame me, blame Brad over at SaferNet, man. My hands are tied here. Make you the bad guy, not me. I'm tired of being the bad cop. No, that's great. Tell me again. We're going to wrap this up here pretty quickly, but tell me a little bit about the company in terms of when it started and where you're at now in terms of size and customers and all that.
Yeah, we've got roughly around 11,000 customers. Actually, 11,421 as of this particular moment.
As you stare at your dashboard.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It's just part of the occupational hazard that I've got. But yeah, we're growing. We're not nearly as large as I'd like to be, but I'm very happy with what is happening, and I just love the response that we're getting from our customers. That's the funnest thing in the world, that when you start hearing from the customers about how safe they feel and how easy this is to use, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're there. We have a team here in Arvada. We've got a team in Ireland that because of COVID, we lost a couple of our key people that actually lived in Ireland. So we thought, well, let's just keep you on, and you work from Ireland. And so we have a team in both locations, and it has actually helped our growth in the European market. We're in 46 different countries, which is kind of fun to see that growth happening. And it's interesting because I had no idea. I've done some work in Rwanda. I've done some business consulting and coaching, and the Rwanda market has really taken off, and never in a million years did I expect us to fit the economic structure of Africa. But people in Africa are using it all the time. They have more awareness about cybersecurity in some of the African countries than we do here in the United States, because they have so blatant hackers out there. So,
well, I mean, I can name one African country that probably accounts for about 50% of my phishing emails. So, yeah, so they're kind of famous, notorious for it, but I think that would probably create a lot of awareness as well. Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, that's super impressive. Over 11,000 users in 46 countries, and that's awesome. I really like the description of your solution. Always on VPN. You've got the 256-bit encryption. Sounds like a great solution. I have really enjoyed this conversation, and wish you the best for the end of 2021, and hopefully all of us will have a great 2022. Brad, it was great talking with you.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I really enjoy your show, and thank you for allowing me to share about some of our experiences.
Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance.